What is up, my friends? Welcome to the video. We've got kind of a new type of video here for you guys. I had the chance to sit down with my buddy Mike Ciprari. He is the founder and owner of SJC Drums, as well as loyal to the craft, and works closely with Gibraltar. I was so honored to get a chance to sit down for about an hour and talk with him about all things drums, his passion for the industry, how he started his companies, just everything in between. It was a really, really great conversation, and I get to share it with all of you. Link down in the description below, you'll see links to SJC, Loyal to the Craft, his websites, all of that. Make sure to check it out, get involved. I'm so excited and honored to share this video with you. But without further ado, let's jump in. It's an hour long, so grab your snacks, grab your drinks, kick back, relax, and enjoy the video. Mike, thank you so much for making some time to meet with me today. First and foremost, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Just having a good day, working, and I'm enjoying the early springtime, man. How are you doing?
Good. I'm not ready though. You know, we're in Arizona. It's already in the 90s, so I'm just not ready for that. But otherwise, it's going pretty well.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on the eastern North Carolina, and the summers here are unbelievably humid. So I'm really enjoying the crisp, cool weather. The sun's out. It's like a nice 70. Because I know in about 30 days or less, it's going to be humid. You know,
I'll just kind of dive right in. First and foremost, SJC, loyal to the craft, Gibraltar, you are a busy man. So I appreciate you making some time for me. I think that really speaks to the artist relationship between, any SJC artist and yourself. But then also, SJC family is not just like a word or moniker. It's truly what you guys embody. So I just have to start by saying thank you for making 30, 45 minutes for me just to talk through what's going on in your world. Again, What you've created here is truly special. So I just want to say thank you kind of before we even start.
Awesome. Well, dude, I appreciate it, man. I don't ever take anything like that lightly. I feel like, still to this day, sorry if you can eat, my son is moshing to a day to remember.
You're fine, man.
It's very loud. I don't know if the camera picks it up or not, but
no.
I don't take it lightly. The fact that drummers, musicians, people even know that the brands that I started when I was a kid exist, so always thankful and grateful for people that want to talk about it and that support the brand. And so thank you for supporting the brand and always posting and tagging the company and just being an awesome part of the SJC family.
Awesome. Well, speaking of that, you mentioned folks maybe not knowing a lot about SJC. Well, one thing that I didn't know until I started talking with you and Matt and the guys is that it started in your grandma's basement, which I think is just so awesome. And I have to ask, what inspired you to go you know what, I'm gonna start building my own drums. I want to be the guy who starts my own company and provides really just honestly one of the best quality products that's in the marketplace.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we definitely didn't plan on it. It was more of a component of, I was really young, I was 9, and I got really inspired by Chad Sexton from 311. And, his drumming and just those songs I thought were so cool. And as a kid, you're pretty easily influenced. And back then when MTV played a lot of music videos, that's all I would do is watch MTV and try to play drums. And I got a drum set for Christmas that year and had very supportive parents that got me the kit, got me drum lessons. I ended up joining the band at school, marching band, jazz band, the whole thing. And my older brother, which it's his initials, SJC, he was playing saxophone and learning how to read and write music. And I was just so into Southern California culture, music and skateboarding and graffiti and tattoos and the whole nine. And so I don't even know how or why it happened, but his love of the behind the scenes, under the hood type of stuff, reading and writing music, and then ultimately learning how to make drums, and my love of music and art culture teamed together really nicely from a young age. And it really just started very organically, where my grandmother, she bought the land literally behind the house that we grew up in, and built a house where her and my great grandmother lived for a long time. And so literally we had a path from our house that we grew up in as kids right to see Grandma and Mimi, is what we called my great grandmother. And that was cool in of itself. You know, I had a really supportive family. Every party we'd have, me and my brother were playing like, you know, the songs we were learning in jazz and marching band. He was on the saxophone, I was on the drums, and he then just started refurbishing drums. He would buy them on not Craigslist. He would buy them from like the Yellow Pages back then, before really the internet was. And he bought a couple kits, and I don't know why he did it, but he just started pulling the wrap off and taking the lugs off and spray painting them and rewrapping them, and, you know, really just doing the DIY thing. He was doing that while I was doing the DIY making shows. I was, you know, playing in my local band and going to Kinko's and making flyers and flyering my high school and putting on shows locally and around New England. And New England in of itself, which is where I grew up in Massachusetts, has a very supportive music scene. I mean, there's a lot of amazing bands that came out of specifically Massachusetts that I love. 4 Year Strong and Converge and Scream and all these really cool punk rock bands that I was obsessed with as a teen. And so, yeah, man, like it just kind of like naturally rolled in, where when I was flyering the shows and then I started playing the shows, I was playing the drums that my brother built me with his initials, and people were like, what is that? So I started promoting it, and we started having people go like, can you rewrap my drums, or could you make me a snare drum? And so we just evolved into that in the backyard, especially when it got colder, didn't cut it anymore. And so my brother just like bought a router table and took a corner of my grandma's basement and started doing it. And I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. My grandma was super supportive of it, where, you know, the router table going off at 10 p.m. didn't bother her. She was really cool with, you know, the dudes in Panic at the Disco showing up to her house to come see the basement, like, to design drums. Like seriously, it was like, you know, looking back on it, it was all a dream, man. It was all such a dream of like what we got to do, and the fact that it was such a family thing, and my grandma was so supportive of it, and it was in our backyard. I don't think we could have repeated it if we tried, and it was just all super organic and just naturally happened. So it was a labor of love, and the passion turned into ultimately the business when we grew out of the basement and all of that. But it was a good, probably just under 10 years of like being there, you know, in grandma's house.
That's so awesome. And it's funny. So like my experience with drums is relatively similar in the sense that I was 8 years old. My mom, who, you know, her birthday actually just passed yesterday. So she would have been 74, but she passed 3 years ago. But she saw that kind of bug in me of tapping on the, you know, the cushions and hearing the song and kind of getting into it. And it was funny. So I was 8 years old, and for one reason or another, my parents were very supportive. They let me buy Slipknot's self-titled album. And so I'm listening to that, I'm listening to Joey, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize drum, because, you know, up until that point, it's AC/DC, classic rock, you know, it's four on the floor, but I'm hearing double bass and, you know, these crazy linear fills, and I'm like, that is what I want to do. And same thing, bought the drum set, started taking the lessons, and really, I mean, up until I was 21, that was my identity, that was my life, that's, you know, and I was in local bands here, but again, same type of thing, DIY shows, let's get out and do our own tours. You know, really just that passion and love for it becomes your drive and becomes this thing that you really can't like live, breathe, or eat without. And it's funny, so I did all that, you know, I ended up leaving the music scene in 2012. When COVID happened and the world stopped, I started playing drums again and started the YouTube channel, you know, Arizona Drummer, how all of this kind of came to be. And it's funny because to tie it all back to SJC, you know, in 2020, right before the world stopped, I went to NAMM for the first time. And I went to the SJC booth, and that's kind of how I learned about SJC. I actually met you back then. I only had like 10 subscribers at the time, but I met you back then, and Jason, and I got to play on the drums. I had the NAMM police come yell at me. It was, you know, the whole experience. And from that moment, I was like, okay, there's something here. And when I get a little bit bigger, I want to reach back out to these guys. And what's funny is, you know, how you and I got in touch was in 2023. It was last 2024. We went on tour with my buddy Bree and Dark Ride, and we used her kit as the backline. And I just posted like, hey, SJC, hit me up. I love your drums. And then you and I just started talking. And what's been great is, you know, now that I'm an artist with the company, like it has been single-handedly the best experience I've had with any company I've worked with. Not just because obviously you and I talk, and whenever I need anything, we're chatting, but poor Matt, I think he hears from me on a weekly basis about different ideas I have and custom ordering things. And, you know, when the Dusseldorf airport lost my snare drum, like he hooked me up, he got me connected with, you know, the rental backlines in Germany, and we got me a snare. So like, again, it's just been like the best experience I've ever had. So, you know, I think when you talk about what you set out to do, which is create a family, like really celebrate our industry, like it's felt by the artist. And like even somebody at my level who's, you know, relatively low, like I feel like I'm treated like somebody who's, you know, like a Jay Weinberg, you know, that I feel treated that way. So it's a huge, you know, testament to, I think, what you've built.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. And that's again, not lost on us, and is very, very important to us as a brand because of that. You know, my upbringing, and I think a lot of kids face that, right? Like there's an epidemic of loneliness right now, right? Where like a lot of kids, especially Gen Z, feel like they're not part of something. And I felt that big time when I was a kid, growing up in a small town, which a lot of us say, I'm from a small town, there's no opportunity here. Opportunity is what you make it. And as people started, you know, becoming part of the SJC family and kind of helping create what that is now, that was so important to me. Of like, I was told I was a poser when I was a teenager because I couldn't really skateboard, but I dressed like it, or I thought I wanted to look like Travis Barker. And so going to a drum store or a music store, it's like I was immediately wrote off and like, you're not cool. And it's like, but why? Like, why is what you think cooler or better than what I think? Isn't that why we music in the first place? Because we're inspired by something and we want to make it our own. It's not black and white. There's that beautiful gray area that's all of the colors of music and art. And so when drummers of all kinds started playing SJC and supporting us, and that word of mouth started happening, we're like, dude, I didn't spend $1 on advertising we still don't. Like the company still doesn't really advertise much. Like for the first decade, we didn't spend any money on advertising because it was all word of mouth. Because drummers like yourself that are out there, like I understand that. Like dudes that are hanging out at the merch table, packing the drums in the trailer, being approachable. We all want to create that community together, which is the music community. And it just like the drum brand just naturally fit into that, and that same DIY kind of punk rock ethos that we were all brought up on, that I think could get lost if we're not careful about it. I'm really proud of that we're able to satisfy not only the Jay Weinbergs and the kids getting their first drum set, but everybody in between. And you know, I hope that never changes.
Absolutely. You know, and I think it's interesting because social media is what it is, right? It's pretty much the way of life now. And I think, you know, when I was coming up, you know, MySpace was the thing, and then Facebook kind of slowly was becoming the thing. But now, I mean, social media, it can make you a star, it can build your career, it can, in some cases, lead to the opposite. But one of the great things about it is, to your point, that free advertisement, like it's played a big role, I think, in SJC's success. And because you guys use it so smart, like whether it's Zach going on there and doing the tours or showing the drums or the drum giveaways, or just the fact that you say what you mean and you do what you say, in the sense of, you know, hey, if you play our brand, we're going to, you know, shout you out. We're gonna celebrate you. And, you know, whether it was my unboxing video that you shared, which was awesome, or even the snare drum one where I was being kind of silly with the new brass snare, like, you know, we're collaborators on that post, and, you know, so many people are getting to see not only my passion for the product, but your passion for your artists and for that collaboration. So, you know, I have to ask though, because you've been in this game and you've been kind of seeing how social media has changed, you know, what do you, in your opinion, how do you think like Instagram or YouTube, how do you think it's like changed our industry? It could be for the good, for the worse, whatever it is. I'm just curious to hear your opinion.
Yeah, dude, I mean, evolution, right? Like, I don't think there's anything that you can look at anything in life and look at it as bad, or you can look at it as a chance to grow and change. Change is inevitable. And, you know, the way that I'm with you, MySpace, that's where the vlogging started. I thought one day I had my old little mini Sony 3 megapixel camera that, you know, recorded like up to like a 90-second video, and I had no idea how to edit. MySpace would only let you put up to certain megabytes of a video, and so, all right, you got to do this in one take. I just thought it would be cool to show. I don't know, man. Like, dude, I was like 18, 19, 20 years old, coming home from college, on the weekends to work on drums, and then eventually early 20s, like being in the factory all day, every day, nothing but drums, going on tour and living my dream. I would go in and it's like, whoa, like we've got drums for Say Anything and Converge and Streetlight Manifesto, and then we have 15 drums for like John Smith and Ryan, whatever. And I think that it would be really cool for these people, if they're fans of Say Anything, to see their drums on the workbench right next to theirs. I'm going to record it. And so I did. I would just go, yo, it's Mike from SJC. We're in Dudley at our shop, and here's exactly what I just said. And I'd put it up on MySpace, and it was like, whoa, like our MySpace numbers and engagement and all that stuff that I didn't even care or think about at that time started growing. And I would go to NAMM and I'd meet people that were like, yo, thanks for shouting me out in the video. Or we talked over the phone for an hour and we built the drums, or, you know, we talked left and right, like you were saying about connecting with Matt. And that will, in my opinion, never go away. The organic touch point of human connection will never go away. Now,
seriously,
you know, TikTok and all these other things and how fast it all moves will change that. Maybe for the better. I don't know. I don't think a ton about it. I try not to get super sucked into that world. Dude, I feel like I was so proud for so long of like, SJC was like the first one on social media when MySpace turned into, like you said, Facebook and Instagram and all that. You're always there. And I didn't get on the TikTok train. And I don't even really look at social media that often. I've got a kid, he's 8, I'm trying to hang with him, and I use it. I know how to use it to a degree. I feel a little bit lost because, you know, I was the young kid in knowing all the stuff and the slang and the algorithm and all that. But all that to say, it's a tool, and if you use it correctly, like any tool, it can be valuable. And if you get stuck into it and you let it dictate success for you based on numbers or brand deals or whatever it may be, you know, all the more power to you if you know how to handle it correctly. But I'm a big proponent of like, ego is the enemy, and I never let any of that stuff dictate whether or not I thought I was cool or confident or good about what I did. And so short of going on a tangent there, like it's a tool, and if you can use it properly for your benefit and to get your messaging out there, that's what I've always been super passionate about, which is where Loyal comes in. You know, using socials as a platform to do good. That's what I've always loved, is like, let's totally bolster up whoever. Obviously Jay Weinberg's got a big following. Let's use that to grow the brand and our messaging. And then let's tie in, you know, I remember young Caleb, you know, shout out to Caleb over in the UK. The dude was like 5 or 6, and I linked with Jay, and next thing you know, the kid's on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And, you know, not to say that it's because of the Jay connection that happened. He worked his butt off, and his parents supported him in a really organic way. But he used social media in an awesome way, and look at what it's gotten for him, all these great opportunities. So I'll just say, I think social media is a world of opportunity, you know?
I agree. And it's funny because, one, again, I have to echo you. Shout out to Caleb. He's just awesome. I remember seeing his videos for the first time, and he's like ripping on double bass. And I'm like, dude, you're like as tall as my waist, and you're ripping double bass faster than I can. But it's, you know, to your point, it's a platform to showcase passion and hard work and discipline. And, you know, I'm grateful that I kind of got into this YouTube social media stuff later in life, you know, in my 30s, because I think had I gotten into it when I was younger, again, to your point, ego is kind of the villain in a sense, where it can get to your head and you can start to be like, well, I'm the best. And what's interesting is, you know, a lot of folks, they're putting up their videos, and it's great that we get to see more drummers than we've ever seen in the past, but it's a community. You know, we're here to learn from each other and to celebrate each other. And that's been probably the best thing in my experience. You know, obviously, to your point, I go out and play live. You know, I'm out, whether it's touring or playing locally, whatever it is, and that human connection of people coming up to you and high-fiving you, and you're signing things, and they get to celebrating that with you is the best experience. Even we did a tour just a couple months ago, and we backlined my kit, you know, and that was really great just from that experience, because I'd never played with these other drummers before, and they were like, dude, thank you for letting us use your kit. It's great. It's fantastic. You know, it was one of my custom kits. And even that, like, it's just an opportunity to be like, hey, you know, if you lead with professionalism and maturity and discipline, like it doesn't matter if you have 10 followers or 10 million followers, like the goal is to help share the passion and to kind of, what's what I'm looking for? I guess participate in the community and like make it a better place. That's really my goal. And even though I'm here doing drum covers, you know, part of the reason I want to do this interview is like I really believe in your message and what you've kind of set out to do. And like, you know, I'm profoundly humbled and grateful to be part of SJC, but also like, you know, you and I have become friends in the last several months, and I'm like, everything I see you doing, I'm like, more people need to see about this. And it's not just about drums, it's about how we can help our community of musicians and the industry continue to evolve and but not lose what makes it so special in the first place. I think it's kind of a fine balance. And so I appreciate you. Again, I'm going to keep saying this probably, but I appreciate you taking the time and talking through that.
Yeah, no problem. No worries at all. Yeah, it's something I'm grateful to be able to do, and you know, you supporting all of the above is much appreciated, and sharing that experience, the connection with other musicians, other drummers. That's what it is. The community, I think, is such a special thing, and yeah, I've been very lucky and grateful to be a part of it for 2+ decades. You know, I want to keep it alive in the way that I know how to, and you know, these relationships are really special for sure.
I was just about to ask you actually. So I think I saw maybe LinkedIn or his Instagram 25 years. Is that right? Of SJC?
Yes.
That's incredible. It's funny, the same year you guys hit 25 years, I think I'm hitting 26 of playing drums. So like we're kind of lockstep there. But
I love that.
To your point, you've been doing it almost 3 decades. We're going to jump into Loyal to the Craft here in a second, but before we do that, you know, what's next for SJC? What do you kind of see on the horizon for where the brand's going next? You know, obviously you've got the partnerships with Sweetwater, Guitar Center, the local dealers. You know, they're all now providing SJC kits so more and more people can get the benefit of playing the drums. But, you know, what's kind of the future? What do you see kind of next for the company?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big undertaking, right? Like we went from selling direct to the consumer for a long time and really championing that whole thing, and to a point where, you know, we wanted to grow and wanted to get the drums out to more and more people, and formed a relationship with Sweetwater and then ultimately Guitar Center, and servicing dealers on a one-to-one basis beside those. I mean, they've got incredible warehouses and, you know, sales engineers at Sweetwater and the whole Guitar Center staff. When you go into the store, that's one thing that we wanted to crawl, walk, run our way into, so we didn't bite off more than we can chew and upset them and our relationship with them, and then ultimately upset the consumer. We wanted to make sure that rock star experience that we're so passionate about filtered all the way through. And so last year, getting an actual distributor to carry the product, to get it to more of the, I don't want to use the word smaller dealers, but like the one-off dealers, the ones that aren't a Guitar Center, you know, bigger footprint across the country. And so, yeah, I think, you know, doubling down on that and making sure that that's the same crawl, walk, run phase. And so the quality stays the same, and the relationship and that rock star experience is super important. And like I said earlier, like I hope that never goes away, where the consumer, we're trying to reach the consumer at the end of the day. The dealers are a customer, but at the end of the day, the person, and I always say kid, because that's a lot of our core, you know, target audience is like the younger kids getting maybe their first or second kit. You know, whoever it is though, that experience of understanding what the product is, making sure it's right for them, unboxing it, and that feeling you get when you unbox it, and then interacting with the brand, like, you know, I hope that never goes away. And so it's a small brand, you know, SJC is a small company, and so there's, you know, it's not and that's awesome. I'd like to say it's been by design the whole time, but it's been by design, but also it is what it is. You know, it's a niche, custom product in a niche industry, you know, and so slow and steady steps there. The dealer, you know, onboarding is a big strategy for this year, and reaching more consumers, obviously, so that the brand can grow and do more. But I think at the end of the day, the messaging of continuing to deliver that rockstar experience is number one. Not side of that and ensuring that that every drummer and parent, right? Because again, going back to our core target audience, a lot of these kids, the decision makers are the parents. And so I've been really proud to create a lot of awesome relationships with the parents through School of Rock and through meeting kids at events, whether it be NAMM or a pop-up that we do at the Volcom or Vans headquarters. Like, that's important, and making sure we get to know them. That's it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say, you know, from my own experience, then I have a couple things on that, and then we'll jump into loyal to the craft. But in my own experience, you know, I've been fortunate enough. I have 2 custom kits. I got the big double bass one behind me. I've got the smaller one I take out on the road, just because obviously taking a big double bass kit on the road is not exactly ideal unless you have the means. So, you know, I've been very fortunate, but I've also had a Pathfinder kit. I think I have 4 separate snare drums from SJC. You know, and back here I have the one that has my mom's badge on it for her. So, and at every unboxing experience, you get that same feeling of like, it's Christmas. I got my new drums. I can't wait to get the heads on it, get it tuned, get playing. And it's because, you know, it's just like we talked about social media, but drums are a tool, and whether it's to create, whether it's to inspire, whether it's to express. I've always said that the only way I can truly express myself and who I am truly is through the instrument. You know, I've been fortunate enough to have had a lot of professional experience in like the corporate world. That's helped me speak better, but to actually express myself, it's through playing the drums. And so the fact that, you know, you're as a business owner, as the one really kind of leading the charge, that your focal point is, how do I make sure that experience is carried through to the consumer, and they can use that tool as that conduit to express themselves or create or inspire, whatever it is, like that, regardless of the series, right? Whether it's Pathfinder, which is your entry level, or a fully custom kit, you're going to have the same experience. And I can say just through my own experience that like one of the things that led to me wanting to work with you guys, other than the fact that, you know, everything I've already kind of talked about, was just that, like, as we're seeing prices kind of go up in the industry, not just ours, but every industry, and we're seeing, you know, market pressures across the board, SJC offers a solution at every price point, and they're all high quality, like Pathfinder all the way up to custom. You know, I was using Pathfinder shows for the tours I was doing before my custom kits came, and, you know, I was getting kudos and what drums are you playing, just like you got, you know, 25 years ago. And so to me, I'm like, that's crucial, because some people can't afford to get whatever kit it is, and they're getting this high quality kit at affordable prices. You know, I think that speaks volumes as well, just to what you've been able to accomplish. I have to ask a question though. So I was at NAMM this last year. You know, obviously we got a chance to meet there. I gave you a hug whether you wanted it or not. And I was walking the SJC booth, and I saw a Navigator kit there with kind of gloss black with the pink splatter. I know there were some Navigator kits in the past. Are we bringing Navigator back? Is that coming back out to the market?
Yeah, that's back as part of the design, as the, you know, strategy with the dealers. You know, we had it years ago, and ultimately the pandemic, as you mentioned, you know, price increases, different things like that, supply chain challenges. We had to kind of let it go. But as part of, you know, evolving the line, and, you know, touching on what you said, I think it's amazing. You know, you said it perfectly, is like these pieces of metal and wood and drum heads and plastic or whatever is making up the thing, becomes this inanimate object that goes and you can create and express yourself. And all of it, I think it's so cool. And so we've always, you know, drums are drums. You know, I'm a huge fan of lots of the drum brands, and inspired by lots of different things. And as I mentioned, skate music culture. I'm inspired by a coffee shop that just opened up in town. I think their branding is cool, and that makes me inspired. And so we've always tried to find ways of, like, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. Sure, back in the day, we made drums that look like an acorn for A Day to Remember, or a sharp strong, you know, like, we did some wild stuff like that. But yeah, like, you know, we're always trying to make a product a little bit cooler and aesthetically pleasing that will, you know, allow the individual to express themselves in different ways.
Absolutely. That's so awesome. So I have to jump into loyal to the craft, because you're talking about things that inspire you. And, you know, loyal to the craft is relatively new to me. You know, I've kind of in the most recent months gotten kind of familiar with it, but assuming our audience is not familiar, can you just take a little bit of time, tell us what Loyal to the Craft is, what your vision is for it, and just kind of how it aligns with everything we've talked about for your goals in the industry?
Yeah, so Loyal to the Craft is a brand that it was kind of the same thing as SJC. Didn't mean for it to be a brand. It was part of, I'm very inspired and motivated to connect with the youth. Again, it's part of our target demographic. So I was always trying to figure out ways to be culturally relevant to the next generation. And I was always trying to find ways around NAMM to bring the community together, right? Like we'd have Trey Cool from Green Day doing a signing at our booth, but I'm like, how do we find a way for all these kids in Orange County to hang out with Trey before the show if they can't go to NAMM or whatever? And so in 2016, 2017, when I was a kid, I snuck into the Vans Warped Tour, got kicked out. Kevin Lyman and his team found me, kicked me out, ultimately became friends with Kevin and team, spoke at his school. He's a teacher at USC. Became friends, apologized, became an official, sponsor of Warped Tour years later. But Kevin introduced me to Steve Van Doren, the founder of the Vans Shoe Company, a company that I have loved and looked up to and has been inspired by for my whole life. And I've been fortunate to have some incredible mentors in the business world, Steve Van Doren being one of them now, Rob Price from School of Rock. And I hit Vans up and I just said, hey, could I borrow a Vans pop-up tent? I want to do a hang at the Huntington Beach Pier. I'm going to have Trey Cool and Jay Weinberg and all these kids playing volleyball, cooking burgers, building the community. So we did it. And Steve and a gentleman named Mitch Whitaker, who was the VP of Vans at the time, came out. Mitch happens to be a drummer. And he's like, dude, what is this all about? And I was like, it's all about community. I want this. Like, look at what's happening here. Like, no, I'm not selling drums and running credit cards, but I guarantee you that 5 of these kids are going to buy drums in the next year. So it makes business sense, but it also is building this community where we're creating that connection to Trey and Jay and that whole thing. And so about a week after that, I was going to China with Frank Zumo from Sum 41. And it was just a profound experience, and Vans started to really support what I was doing. And Loyal to the Craft was born. We came back and I started doing a lot of these pop-up tours at School of Rock, at various venues, and bringing influential musicians along with the drums, along with my story as an entrepreneur to show kids and their parents, like, chase your dreams, go for it. We would bring in mental health advocates to give kids resources on, finding out how to talk about mental health. I think that's really important for the next generation. And so starting about 10 years ago now, really, we've just been doing experiential pop-ups and tours and collaborations with other brands like Volcom, Vans, as I mentioned. And we are currently, we're going to have a pop-up at the Vans Warped Tour this year. We're going to have a small stage at the Vans Warped Tour this year. We're going to have a little shred area where kids can come and jam and try out instruments and hang. Just the whole bit, the whole thing is going to be there at the Vans Warped Tour. And really, the ultimate goal for Loyal to the Craft is to reach as many kids, next generation, parents, teachers as possible. I mean, look, like I mentioned earlier, there's an epidemic of loneliness. Music education is declining in the school system. It has been. I'm not sitting here saying that I alone am going to change that. But I'm on a mission to reach as many kids as possible alongside my incredible network of drummers, musicians, and like-minded business people to connect with and hopefully inspire and motivate the youth to chase their dreams. I've been doing the drum thing for 25 years since I was 15, and I think a lot of kids with the internet, again, back to that, it's a great tool, but if you don't know how to use it, and especially when you're 13 and seeing some kid go viral, that can mess with you and go, well, I can't, mine's not getting that many likes or shares. So like, I suck at this. It's like, no. I'm trying to build the community and bring people along for that ride. We're going to be creating, we already have been, we've got a couple in the bank. We're creating master classes and just a full slew of educational resources online and in real life to, again, build that community, inspire and motivate, and really push the youth to turn their passion into their purpose.
Yeah. Dude, so I apologize. I don't know if it's coming out on camera or not, but I'm getting a little bit emotional. Just because, like, what not only a noble, but like just awesome mission statement to have. You're creating opportunities for these young kids to realize that like these rock stars or these, you know, crazy drummers who have these crazy skills, they're achievable, they're attainable. You can create opportunities to explore and, you know, kind of feed into your curiosity a little bit. Like what you're talking about with the Vans Warped Tour. I can get in there if I'm a young kid. I can come see my favorite bands play. I can get up and jam with maybe strangers I've never met before, which is already daunting for a young person. But then when you touch on the mental health aspect of it, like, oh my gosh, like take the drum side out of it, take the music industry out of it, and just talk about the mental health. Like I have a 12-year-old, she's going on 13. And even there, you know, it's daily conversations about her interactions at school and you know, of course she's getting into boys and like all that fun stuff. And then you throw social media in the mix and all the other pieces. It's like, if these kids don't have the resources and opportunities, regardless, you know, there is a risk that we're not going to have a next generation of folks who are bold enough to go out and be curious and to explore the ability to, you know, express themselves with the kid down the street, or maybe go on the internet and collaborate with somebody in a different state, or whatever it is. And so the fact that you're creating this opportunity or these opportunities and then building that confidence and making these dreams achievable, or at the very least more attainable, that they can kind of get in their mind of like, I don't have to be the best double bass player or the best at these crazy blast beats. I just have to be the best version of myself playing this instrument and authentic to myself. And that's going to build the confidence I need. Like what a great, sorry, I got a little bit emotional because when I was coming up, I didn't have any of that, you know, and so I had to be the best double bass player or the best metal drummer or whatever it was, because what if I get kicked out of my band, or what if there's somebody better? And, you know, it's funny, I'm going to quote John Cena, which is, you know, we'll see how that goes, but he says comparison is the thief of joy. You know, and as I've gotten older, I couldn't agree with that more. You know, like you can compare yourself to what you could do when you were younger, you can compare yourself to the person next to you, but if you can build the confidence and create opportunities, like you're opening the door for so many kids. And like, you know, I think Jay has some shows with Loyal to the Craft coming up. You know, I saw the camp that you guys did a few months ago. It might have been last year that you did last year, where the kids came and there was master classes and bands playing live. And to me, I'm like, again, I said it already, but just a noble cause to create these opportunities for kids to get to know themselves and to inspire confidence in themselves to pursue this dream. Like, gosh, sorry, I have to commend you on that. If anything, I was already pretty, you couldn't tell, I was already very sold on our partnership, but even more so, I'm like, hey, how can I get involved over here too? You know, I've got the SJC stuff, but I'm like, how can I do this? And so, you know, I just have to thank you again for doing that, because on your Instagram right now for Loyal to the Craft, it says, you know, you're aiming to be the next major force in education, entertainment, and creative empowerment. And so, like, you talked a little bit about it, but like, what are maybe some goals or actions that you're going to take as you move into the rest of this year and then following years to really spearhead that and create more of these opportunities? I know we're getting close on time too, so hopefully you can go a little bit over, but yeah. Okay, cool. Nope. But maybe tell me a little bit more about that, because I'll talk the whole time, so I'm just going to kick it over to you.
I appreciate it, and you know, thank you for the props and the recognition on that. You know, it's not easy, but I think it's something that has to be done. And I've had so many amazing and empowering for myself conversations with people in the industry and other brands that also see the need for this, right? The camp we did at Woodward, one of them, like all of these like-minded people, action sports and music and art go so well. Yeah. It's the same thing. Self-expression, confidence building, going for it, all of it. Reaching the youth with it is something, again, that I'm so passionate about and motivated to make happen. Not only for me, you know, I think it's always, I look back at anytime I was marketing stuff for the drum brand, it was like 12-year-old me. Like, what would 12-year-old Mike do? That was kind of my lens of authenticity. And so 12-year-old Mike would want and need something like this. And I've seen it firsthand. We've done dozens and dozens of events at School of Rock and the thing we did at Woodward, as you called out. I've seen it happen still to this day, talk to a lot of the kids and parents and follow their journey of like, you gave me the motivation to like chase my dreams and go for it. And now I'm touring, or now I'm in music school, or the parents hitting me up and being like, yo, my kid like totally blossomed after that, of like, your messaging got through. That's what they needed to hear. And, you know, I think that is really powerful, and I don't take any of that lightly. And so from my lens as a kid, through looking at my kid who, as I mentioned earlier, was moshing to a Day to Remember, like he loves the same pop punk and heavy music that I do and did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's all the same, right? It's not going anywhere. AI and social media can grow, and it's not going to take over the need for human connection. And so part of my mission is that, but how to make it happen, you know, it's all about partnerships. It's all about, I'm not going to sit here and say it's all about who you know, because that's exactly the opposite of what I want to message. It's building your web, right? Like a lot of people are brought up, and I had friends in high school where their parents were like, you got to climb the corporate ladder as you get older. And I'm like, that's so stupid. Like what happens when you get to the top? Is it lonely? The higher you all, the higher you're gonna fall, and that sounds like it's gonna hurt. So like, why not look at it like a web where you're making these connections? And I saw it with SJC. I went to the Palladium to meet this guy. I literally went to the Palladium to meet the drummer for Midtown, Rob Hitt. And at that show, I met Spencer Peterson, who played for Hidden in Plain View. I met the Butcher, who became the Butcher, like making
Butcher Hoops,
Butcher Hoops, all that stuff. And I met the team at Crush Management. And so I Rob Hitt, and I met all these other people. And then 2 months later, I get a call from Crush Management. Hey, Mike, Panic at the Disco, we just signed them. They're gonna be on Fueled by Ramen, and they're recording their debut album with Matt Squire, who I looked up to as a producer. He produced a lot of my favorite bands at the time in SJC drum sets. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, check a lot of boxes off for me of like in my life that I just want to accomplish. Sweet, make a drum that Matt Squire is going to produce and get his hands on. Maybe I can do something more with him one day. Great. And then boom, a year later, Panic at the Disco is on the MTV VMAs, you know, with our drums that we made. Like, so that showed me the power of word of mouth and building that web. That kids need to understand that more and more and more, again, especially around social media world and language. And so, you know, really, I've got a lot of relationships and partnerships that I'm really proud of and grateful to have. And so I've been, for the past few months, really building out the business plan and strategy and aligning myself with these like-minded individuals and like-minded brands to elevate the mission. We are starting this year, you know, like I mentioned earlier, getting some of these master classes. We've got you know, we're flying people out here to the coast where I am. Where we've got an awesome studio that we bring them in. We film the master class. We're going in and doing some really awesome local outreach, bringing them into schools and empowering the kids and motivating them. We're documenting the whole thing. We've got an incredible media team helping elevate that message. So that's one of the pillars. We're doing the Vans Warped Tour to do a lot of outreach to, you know, the 150,000 people per weekend that are going to 3 cities, each of the 3 cities. And from there, you know, really, I want to say the sky's the limit. Like we've got, I've got a whole, you know, slew of like future plans as things are happening. It's like, can't do that now, but let's put it on the docket for next year or the year after. This year's pretty buttoned up with, you know, these activations and things that we're doing, but 2026, we're going to be hitting it pretty hard. Lots of activations, lots of really great things with the School of Rock, a lot of different artists that we're going to be bringing in and reaching out, you know, beyond just drummers. I think there's a lot of empowerment that can happen from other types of musicians, other types of creatives and entrepreneurs, and showcasing and documenting their journey. And so, yeah, you know, we're aiming to reach the mass market, again, with the content, with their in real life events, because that's really where the happens, and the educational content, whether it's a master class or a Zoom session, and doing the Willy Wonka, Oprah Winfrey style stuff, where it's like my major love is connecting a young musician with their hero, their influencer, you know, creating that magic connection, as I mentioned earlier, Caleb and Jay Weinberg, or
Yeah.
we've had kids at our factory that are wearing Green Day shirts. So I'll run back to my office and I'll text Trey. I'm like, dude, can you FaceTime me? FaceTimes me, and I go up to these kids. I'm like, yo, someone wants to say hey. It's like, wait, what? Like that for me, dude, that's it. That's everything. Like, because that kid's changed at that point. They're like, my dream just came true. And for me, like, dream came true, great, when you're 10 or 15, 20, whatever. Now go and dream of something even bigger.
Yeah.
And go accomplish that, because this happened,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, like, obviously loyal to the craft, starting with, to your point, drummers, action sports, things like that. But to your point, like the mission of it is empower kids and really everyone to realize that dreams are achievable, and that it's okay to pursue them. It's okay to have, it's going to take work, but people, it's about the connections, right? So I as you were kind of sharing that, I was thinking of a story where it's like, you and I wouldn't be on this call had I not gone out and played with my buddy who plays SJC drums. And then we talk to each other online, and then there we are in person hanging out in January. And so it's just, and it's one of those things where it's like, you don't know where you're going to go, but as long as you're open to it and you have the confidence and you have the opportunities, like, dreams are achievable. And, I always use my own experience in the sense of, I gave up my dream. I had to quit the band and kind of focus on that corporate ladder you were talking about, when I was 21 years old, so I could be a dad and kind of focus on that. But here I am again, in my, I don't want to say it, but mid-30s, doing it again. And, within a few years of being back, it's like, oh my gosh, all these great opportunities, and I'm meeting all these fantastic people. And, it's funny, right here next to me, I don't know if this will show up on the camera, but this is, yeah, there it is. This is a drumstick from the Gibraltar event with Art Cruz, who, I hadn't seen since 2000, I think it was 8. And we remembered each other, had a big hug. But back to your point, it's like, I wouldn't have even had that had you and Gibraltar and Loyal to Craft and all of the companies put this opportunity together where, I reconnected with somebody who now is the drummer of Lamb of God, which is awesome, but is still just my friend who I opened up for 20 years prior. So it's one of those things where you're creating opportunities to create community, which in the industry that we're in, especially as it just becomes harder and harder to do that. Like, it's just such a great, like, initiative to have. And again, in the back of my mind, I'm like, after this meeting, I'm going to text Mike and be like, how can I get involved? But like, it's just, but I want as many people to hear about Loyal to the Craft and of course SJC as possible. So what are like the best ways for folks to kind of get involved, but also just to stay up to date on like the things you're working on, the things that are going on, so they can participate? But also, again, back to parents, I want parents to know that their kids have these opportunities. In fact, really quick, just side tangent, then I'll kick it back to you. I played at this horror convention in Cincinnati called Horror Hound back in June of last year. And I'm sitting at the merch booth, to your point. We haven't gone on yet. I'm kind of just getting jazzed, getting ready. And this kid, he's maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9, comes up to me. His name's Skylar. And he has me sign his drumstick, and he goes, hey man, like, I got your album, I've seen your videos. He recognized the Arizona drummer stuff. And he's like, you're inspiring me to play. Like, it's so much fun watching your videos. And like, it was this full circle moment for me of just like, this is what it's all about, is like, this kid is right here. And I'm like, hey, make sure you get in the front of the show. And luckily he got up in the front, and I was making eye contact with him while I'm playing. I'm, threw a stick at him. And, of course, playing shows, we all love playing music. We all love drums. Like, it's part of it. But that was the highlight. And if I'm being honest, of the last, 2 years of touring, big shows in Europe, playing, West Coast, whatever it is, that was the highlight of just having that moment with Skylar. And it's stuck with me this whole time. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because, that's what it's about, is how do you pass the torch? Because, we're going to be here playing drums no matter what. But how do we make sure that other people can benefit from it? But anyway, so I'll kick it back to you.
No, I agree with you 100%. I appreciate that because that is what it's about. And sometimes people can lose sight of that. It's kind of easy to get wrapped into the daily, struggle of life or hurdles of starting a business or being in a business, working for somebody, playing the gig, booking the gig, whatever it may be. Taking that moment and really appreciating it. Gratitude can go a long way. But no, yeah, I mean, following along, obviously SJC is at SJC on all the socials.
Yep.
Staying up to date with what the brand has got going on, and same with Loyal to the Craft. It's at Loyal to the Craft on all the social platforms. Instagram's the one we feed the most. But if you go to loyaltothecraft.com, you can get more of a peek into our mission, and you can join the community. We've got a whole community there. I would love if everybody puts their email in. We're going to be giving a lot of freebies. We've got some really cool stuff about to come out in the next month or two. Grateful for people supporting it and spreading the message. I think everybody can relate to, as I mentioned, the epidemic of loneliness, what you just said, paying it forward and trying to reach the next generation, whether it's your neighbor, a kid at school, somebody's kid at your workplace, whatever it may be. Yeah. If you all know somebody, whether they're a musician or not, that could use a pat on the back, and I think that's mainly the mission I'm trying to spread here. Obviously, I'm distilling it down really into music and arts and things like that. But yeah, follow us on the socials. Reach out, send me an email. My email's in my Instagram bio. It's just mike@loyaltothecraft.com. I want to hear from people. Who should we bring in for a masterclass, for a podcast, to an event? Who do you guys want to see us highlight? Heck yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about community. Let's grow it together. And yeah, man, I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, so just for those who are watching, I will have all of that in the description. So links to SJC, links to Loyal to the Craft, their Instagrams, all of it. And then on my Instagram, I already link SJC to just as an artist. So if for whatever reason you can't find it, you can come to my page, you'll have it. I also just relaunched my website again, so I'll have links to all of that on my website, my personal website, making sure that folks can get to SJC, get to Loyal to the Craft. And the biggest thing for me is, and I know we're already over, so I won't hold you hostage, but for anybody out there who's watching this, who maybe is not familiar with me or with Mike, I think the most important thing, especially if you're a young kid or even in your 30s trying to do this again, the most important thing is to get out there and do it, and focus on the fact that it's something that you love, and it's and let your love and passion guide that. Because I think for myself, there are days, and I'm sure you have them too, where I go in here and I try to record my video and I'm like, oh, I just don't have it today. I can't, and either discipline kicks in or grace does. And I like to believe that if you lead with grace for others, for yourself, and stick to what's true to your values, you're going to be successful. And so, the fact that our messages align, just I was already happy with SJC because I love the product, I love the brand, I love the message. But just after, and you and I have talked several times, but after this conversation, if anything, I'm even more invigorated to just continue to be an ambassador for everything that you're putting into our community. And I just want to say again, thank you, because between everything you're doing with Loyal to the Craft, SJC, and Gibraltar also is in the mix there. Like, Gibraltar's another huge endeavor that might be a whole separate conversation. For you to find at this point, I think almost an hour of time just to talk with me and give me the opportunity to learn more about what's going on with you, but also share it with all the people, is huge. And it just really speaks to what your values are, but then also what you've put out there in the marketplace for other people to take advantage of. Like, just, I want to say thank you for the time, but also thank you for the hard work. It's been 25 years, but it's I can tell you as somebody who's out there, you are too, but in the community, like, other people feel it, other people celebrate it. And I don't think our community or industry would be as beneficial as it is today, or in as good of a spot as it is in today, without SJC's presence. So I just have to say thank you for all you've done.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. Let's obviously collab on this post so we can get out to as many people as possible. I appreciate you sharing the message on everything we talked about. And yeah, to your point, what you said to those listening that may be having doubt in the imposter syndrome, it's real. I get it. Everybody has it. You're not you're not alone in that, and that's okay. Go for it. You know, hard work pays off. You know, I'm a stickler for time, and I give it freely, but I also know that putting yourself out there pays itself in dividends in various ways all of the time. So if any of those listening are scared to make their first post or cover video or ask somebody for a collab or whatever it is, just go for it. You know, like I'm a big proponent of going for it. I get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. every day to like just get my stuff done and go. And I try to achieve a lot, to a fault sometimes, but like, you know, you got to start somewhere. And, you know, I love the messaging. I appreciate you trying to elevate it and doing your part to help. So thank you for having me on. Thank you for all your support of everything. And yeah, man, look forward to working with you more into the future.
Me too. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And I'll have all that linked for everybody so you can stay in contact with Mike, SJC, Loyal to the Craft, everything involved. And again, feel free to reach out to either of us if you have questions or want to just get involved.
Awesome. All right, y'all. See you out there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys, there you have it. And I just want to make sure I extend a big thank you from all of us here at Arizona Drummer to Mike for just investing the time to talk to us about his mission, his vision for our industry, and all of the hard work him and the team are doing to make our industry a better place and prepare for the next generation of artists. Thank you, Mike. I'm so grateful to be a part of what you're working on, and I can't wait to get more involved. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching, and making it this far. If you liked what you saw, let me know in the comments below so I can do more videos like this. I have a few more interviews actually scheduled for the future that'll be kind of similar to this one, some of them in person, some of them virtual like this one. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of those, but thank you again for sticking around, watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.